Congressman Ro Khanna thinks that now is the time that we as a nation can actually take on systemic racism. This is fascinating. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. And Congressman Khanna, welcome back to the program. I'm curious your thoughts on this moment in time. There's so much happening. When you sort through it all, what bubbles to the top in your mind?
Well, Tom, I appreciate being on. Obviously, the issues of racial justice are first and foremost. And in fact, I have been quite inspired to see people in the streets, the movement across the country. It hasn't let up. It has been sustained. It has led to things like My Peace Act, which only had 22 co-sponsors for a year, which I did with Lacey Clay, saying we need to change the standard of force in this country. I mean, can you believe we're still being governed by William Rehnquist's ghost of reasonable standard that is totally different than what every other Western democracy has, which is force can only be a last resort. So that finally got a markup in the Judiciary Committee. We're moving on a lot of other bills that the Congressional Black Caucus has put forward. None of these were moving in the past. And that's not because of any of us in Congress. It's because people are out in the streets. I hope they stay out there. I hope this becomes one of those moments that we're really going to see progress for racial justice.
Yeah, it certainly seems like the old Overton window has shifted, and that there's no going back. I mean, we saw this. We saw this with gay marriage. We saw this with the Me Too movement and the treatment of women. Now we're seeing it with the treatment of African Americans, and I think more broadly, over time, over the next years, or maybe a year even. This is going to, broaden out to include Hispanics and Native Americans and, people of other, Indian ancestry, Asian ancestry, things like that. Your thoughts on that, and then we'll pick up phone calls here.
Well, I completely agree with you. I mean, I was inspired by Ta-Nehisi Coates, who in the past has been pretty pessimistic about the condition of race in this country, and has said that he's being a black man doesn't give him much hope. And I saw an interview of his where he said this is the first time in his life that he's really felt hope. And he's seen that, as he put it, white Republican women in suburbs in certain places were protesting along with the African Americans. And so I think that there is something different about these protests. I think there is something that's going to come about in a major way. It feels to me something like Me Too, or as you put it, gay marriage, but addressing something so deep, or original sin, right? I mean, if you have 250 years of slavery and followed by 100 years of Jim Crow, that's 350 years of blacks being treated and thought of as less than, and then you just have 50 years of a civil rights tradition. You can understand the toll that's taken on the American psyche. And this seems to be a step in a very constructive direction.